That's the aftermath of the weekend storm. Deep, deep snow. It's deeper than the snowblower. So I got most of it cleaned up and encountered a little problem here on the blower. So I got it all apart now, but there's a bevel gear goes in there, which runs the side shaft by chain, goes down and runs the auger that pulls the snow in. So the bearing had pushed its way back somehow through the flange. I guess there's a fair bit of pressure on these bevel gears when they're working, and the gears were barely meshing, and the rattling noise kind of got my attention. It looked like it must have run like that for long enough to shine up the metal. I'm going to try and get a little bit of photographic evidence here for should the day come when I'm getting this back together and by chance I forget how it all goes. So this is where the bevel gear mounts, a key on there. As you can see, there's a lot of scratchy stuff going on there. The bearing is still intact, surprisingly. The inner race where the locking collar went has a piece snapped out of it. Yeah, it's a little tight, so it'd be smart to replace it. So I got to get that off. This is the bevel gear. Look at that locking collar, worn to nothing. A couple of washers went in there between it. This is the key that drives it. Wouldn't hurt to replace that too. The gear, surprisingly, after 50 years of, well, almost 50 years of poor mesh and extreme hard work, still intact. This flange, it wore through, I don't know how, almost as if the bearing was turning inside the flange. It wore it through to the point that the gear pressure pushed the bearing back through the flange, hence the lack of engagement on the bevel gears. Speaking of which, another little thing I noticed. It might be time to think about replacing this sprocket. You can see those teeth, they're worn needle sharp almost. I'm not sure what all has to come off for that. I imagine it'll be one of those weld-on deals. If I get the bearing off, I'll be able to tell. This bearing, I believe I replaced a few years ago, and it's still pretty good if I don't destroy it taking it off. Anyway, it is warmed up to 15 degrees here, Fahrenheit, which is still not bare hand weather as far as I'm concerned. I've done about all I can do here to this point. I'm going to have to take this and do a little more disassembly, and I think we're going to call it done. Good thing we're near the middle of March, because I don't know when I'll get snow blowing again. Check this out. When this blower was new in 1976, it came with this rustless chain, and sure enough, it's still rustless. It's a little sticky. I'm thinking maybe there's a bit of ice in it. That's what it is. I'm going to thaw it out and see if it's still sticky. Maybe soak it in some oil or something. Anyway, hands are freezing up. Time to call it end of the show. So, to be continued.